My brothers and sisters, you don't need applause to become great. You don't need a stage to grow strong. And you definitely don't need everyone watching while you build. See, the greatest transformations don't happen in front of a crowd, they happen in silence. In the dark, when no one's watching but God. Greatness is built in silence, not on stage. This truth stands in contrast to the culture we live in today, a culture obsessed with visibility, applause, and constant recognition. Social media, public platforms, and the spotlight have created a false narrative that if people don't see you working, you're not doing anything worthwhile. But the greatest achievements, the deepest transformations, and the most powerful breakthroughs rarely happen in public view. They happen in silence, in obscurity, in those hidden seasons when it feels like no one's watching and no one cares. When you look at how true greatness is formed, it always begins in the unseen. The seed doesn't grow on top of the soil. It grows under it, in darkness, in pressure, in isolation. That seed has to push through dirt before it ever sees light. But what's powerful is this: that dark, quiet place is not a grave, it's a womb, it's not the end, it's the beginning. And when you understand that, you stop trying to avoid the quiet seasons of life. You stop resenting the hidden moments where it feels like nothing's happening. Because something is happening. Your roots are going deep, your character is being formed, your foundation is being built. Everybody wants the crown, but nobody wants the cross. Everybody wants the recognition, but they don't want the refinement. You cannot carry greatness if you haven't been tested in silence. You can't handle influence if you haven't submitted to the process of becoming strong when no one else is watching. Because public pressure will always reveal private preparation. If you're shallow behind the scenes, you'll crack under the weight of visibility. But if you build yourself in secret, if you allow yourself to be molded, corrected, and refined when nobody's clapping, you'll emerge with something real. You'll have substance, not just image. You'll carry depth, not just noise. Some of the greatest people to ever walk the earth didn't demand a spotlight. They didn't go around asking people to notice them. They just quietly kept showing up, quietly kept working, quietly kept obeying the voice of God and aligning themselves with purpose, and over time, their consistency spoke louder than any self-promotion ever could. You see, in a world full of noise, consistency and character are rare and powerful. They don't need to shout. They simply are. When you build in silence, you are not distracted by applause. Applause is addictive. It can become a drug that convinces you you're progressing just because people are watching. But progress doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it looks like long nights, hard questions, quiet discipline, and invisible breakthroughs. That's the part nobody sees, but that's the part that matters most. Because that's where the real you is forged, not the version that poses for approval, but the one who shows up when it's hard, when it's boring, and when it's lonely. Don't despise the season where it feels like no one is clapping for you. Embrace it. It's in the silence that your spiritual muscles grow. It's in the silence that your mind is sharpened. It's in the silence that your intentions are purified. Are you building because you want to be seen? Or are you building because you know what you were made for? Silence will answer that question for you. And if you lean into it, if you allow it to stretch you and form you, you'll come out stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the weight of what you're called to carry. Validation is not a prerequisite for preparation. In a world that thrives on external affirmation, this principle is both countercultural and powerful. Too many people are waiting for someone else to notice them, to endorse them, to approve of their journey before they give themselves permission to start. But the truth is, you do not need anyone's permission to walk in your calling. You do not need applause before you begin. And you do not need recognition before you prepare. Real preparation begins with identity, not approval. If you don't know who you are, you'll constantly look for someone else to tell you. You'll look to people, platforms, likes, and comments to affirm something that only God can establish. And the danger is this: when you build your life on the validation of others, you become dependent on their opinions to continue. The moment they stop clapping, you stop moving. The moment they criticize, you retreat. But when you prepare from a place of conviction, when you start moving based on what you know rather than what you feel, you become unstoppable. There is something sacred about private preparation. It's in those moments when no one sees what you're doing, when no one's texting "good job," when no one's reposting your efforts, that your motives are tested. Are you doing it for likes, or are you doing it because it's right? Are you building because you need attention, or because you're being faithful to the assignment placed in your heart? These are the questions preparation will answer long before any spotlight ever shows up. There are people who keep waiting for someone to discover them. But if you need to be discovered to start, you're not ready. People don't discover purpose. Purpose reveals people. And purpose is revealed through preparation. Think about the farmer. He doesn't wait for people to tell him it's a good season to plant. He knows the soil, he trusts the process, and he begins the work. Whether anyone's watching or not, he prepares the field. Whether anyone applauds the effort or not, he sows the seed. And he does it not for recognition, but for harvest. Validation is a bonus, not a requirement. If it comes, great. If it doesn't, keep going anyway. The people who make the biggest impact in life are not those who waited to be chosen. They chose themselves. They looked in the mirror, saw the potential God placed in them, and said, "It's time to move." They didn't need a crowd. They didn't need a mentor's blessing. They didn't need the perfect opportunity or the ideal conditions. They simply began, and because they began, they became. When you prepare in faith rather than insecurity, you stop trying to impress and start trying to improve. You focus on your growth, your discipline, your strategy, your consistency. You make decisions not based on how many eyes are on you, but based on how aligned you are with your assignment. You learn, you train, you develop not for the gram but for greatness, not for attention but for accuracy. And when your preparation is rooted in faith, the results will eventually speak for themselves. Preparation is the proving ground of purpose. And the beauty of it is this: you don't need to wait for anyone else to give you a green light. If you have a vision, start moving. If you have a word, start walking. If you have a gift, start sharpening it. Don't wait for applause to validate your journey. Let your preparation validate your vision, because by the time people see what you've built, it'll be too late to doubt you. Discipline outweighs public recognition. In a world where it seems like visibility equals value, it's easy to get caught in the trap of doing things just to be seen. People post their progress, share their routines, broadcast their grind, hoping for attention, applause, and affirmation. But recognition doesn't build anything, discipline does. Recognition might put you in the spotlight for a moment, but discipline is what sustains you when the lights go out. It's what keeps you going when the cameras are off, the crowd is gone, and the energy fades. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not flashy, it's not always exciting, but it's powerful. It's what separates those who wish from those who win. It's the difference between potential and performance. You can have all the talent in the world, but without discipline, you'll burn out before you break through. Talent can open the door, but only discipline keeps it open. It's easy to perform when people are watching. It's easy to put in effort when recognition is guaranteed. But discipline means doing the work even when no one notices, even when no one says thank you, even when there's no trophy at the end. There's a quiet strength in discipline. It's waking up early to train when the bed feels more comfortable. It's sticking to your plan when distractions call your name. It's showing up with excellence not because someone is keeping score, but because you made a commitment. Discipline is about doing what you said you'd do long after the feeling in which you said it has faded. It's about building habits that hold you up when motivation lets you down. Recognition can become a dangerous addiction. Once you start depending on it, you begin tailoring your actions to fit public approval instead of divine purpose. You start compromising quality for clout. You start chasing visibility instead of vision. But discipline doesn't care who's watching. It's not fueled by applause. It's rooted in commitment. It's grounded in the understanding that results don't come from being noticed. They come from being consistent. Real elevation doesn't happen because people cheer for you. It happens because you've been faithful behind the scenes. Discipline makes you trustworthy. It builds character. It shows that you can be counted on, not just when things are easy, but when they're tough, mundane, and unrewarding. Public recognition doesn't test your integrity. Discipline does. Discipline reveals whether you're serious or just performing. It asks, can you keep going when the hype dies down? Can you stay focused when nobody's clapping? Can you sacrifice comfort for calling, consistency for convenience? The irony is that the more disciplined you are, the more recognition tends to follow. But by that point, you don't even need it. It becomes a byproduct, not a motivator. Because when discipline is your driver, you're not working for people's attention. You're working for a higher standard. You're holding yourself accountable to the purpose you were given, not the popularity you could gain. You're building something that lasts, not just something that trends. Most people won't celebrate discipline because it's not exciting to watch. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't get a standing ovation. But discipline wins long term. It compounds over time. Every quiet decision to stay the course, to say no to distraction, to give your best even when it doesn't feel rewarding. That's what separates the imitators from the innovators, the inconsistent from the unstoppable. Recognition can fade, but discipline builds legacy. Authenticity is greater than visibility. In today's culture, visibility is often mistaken for value. The louder someone is, the more people assume they're right. The more someone posts, the more people assume they're productive. But visibility doesn't mean substance. It doesn't mean power, wisdom, or alignment. It just means people can see you. And what's dangerous about chasing visibility is that it tempts you to present a version of yourself that's filtered, polished, and hollow. You become more concerned with how things look than how they truly are. But authenticity, the commitment to show up as your real self, to operate from a place of truth, to speak what you believe and live what you speak, that's where your power is. Authenticity takes courage. It requires confronting the temptation to blend in. It demands that you resist the pressure to conform, to perform, or to become a copy of what's currently popular. When you're authentic, you may not always be accepted, you might not always be celebrated, but you will always be clear. You'll know who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. That clarity is far more valuable than visibility. Because when you know who you are, you don't need an audience to validate your identity. You don't need approval to feel grounded. You become free, free from pretending, from comparing, from competing. The reason many people feel exhausted by their pursuit of success is because they've traded authenticity for visibility. They've built a platform that doesn't align with their purpose. They're putting on a show, and the performance is draining them. They're afraid that if they ever stop pretending, they'll lose their place. But a false image is a fragile foundation. If who you're being is based on who people expect you to be, then your identity is only as strong as their opinions. That's why authenticity is non-negotiable, because when the crowd leaves, when the spotlight dims, when the platform shifts, your real self is the only thing you have left. Being authentic means being faithful to your assignment, not someone else's expectations. It means embracing your gifts, your flaws, your process, and your pace. It means owning your journey without apology, understanding that your path won't always make sense to others. Authenticity gives you permission to grow without performing, to learn without pretending, and to lead without controlling. It creates space for real connection, real purpose, and real impact. Visibility might get people's attention, but authenticity earns their trust. And trust is what transforms lives. People don't follow perfection, they follow realness. They follow integrity. They follow leaders, creators, and visionaries who are willing to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to be consistent in who they are behind the scenes. Authenticity breeds legacy. It outlives trends. It outlasts hype, because while the world changes, truth doesn't. You don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be viral. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. What you do need is to be rooted, grounded in who you are, anchored in your values, steady in your walk. When you lead with authenticity, the right people will find you. The right doors will open. And even if the crowd overlooks you, the impact you make will be undeniable. Authenticity has weight, it has authority, it doesn't need to scream to be heard. It just is solid, unmoved, and full of power. Rooted foundations sustain lasting success. Success that is not grounded is success that will not last. You can build fast, but if you don't build deep, what you've built won't survive the pressure, the storms, or the weight of the very platform you were chasing. In life, there are two kinds of builders, those who focus on appearances and those who focus on roots. The ones who focus on appearance often look like they're winning in the beginning. Everything looks impressive, polished and fast, growing. But without a strong foundation, it's only a matter of time before the cracks start to show. Real success takes time because real roots don't grow overnight. There is a difference between elevation and sustainability. Anyone can rise quickly if they get the right opportunity, the right exposure, or the right platform. But the question isn't just can you rise. It's can you stay there, can you carry it, can you withstand the pressure that comes with it? And that's where roots come in. Roots represent your values, your discipline, your convictions, your internal structure. They represent the time you spent growing in private, being refined in silence, learning through failure, building without applause. All of that invisible work becomes your anchor when the visible success finally shows up. Rootedness means you're not easily shaken. It means criticism doesn't break you and praise doesn't inflate you. You know who you are and what you're building, so outside opinions don't dictate your direction. That kind of strength doesn't come from performance. It comes from depth. The deeper your roots, the higher your reach. A tree can only grow tall if its roots grow deep. If you try to grow upward without growing downward, your success becomes a liability, not a blessing. The reason so many people crumble under pressure is not because they lacked opportunity, but because they lacked foundation. They weren't rooted in anything solid. They were rooted in image, in fame, in ambition, or in other people's approval. But all of those things shift, all of them change. If you want to build something that endures, it must be rooted in something eternal, something that doesn't move with the culture, the market, or the crowd. That's why personal integrity matters more than public image, because public image is what people see, but personal integrity is what holds it all together. When your foundation is strong, setbacks don't destroy you. They develop you. Delays don't discourage you. They mature you. Challenges don't derail you. They reveal what's already inside of you. Being rooted gives you the patience to wait and the wisdom to grow. It keeps you from rushing into rooms you're not ready for, and keeps you grounded when opportunities finally come. Without roots, even good things can crush you, but with roots, even hard seasons can grow you. Success isn't just about how much you build, it's about how well you build. Anybody can build fast, but it takes wisdom to build strong, to build with intention, to build with character. You don't need to be seen quickly. You need to be stable long term. That's the difference between hype and legacy. Hype fades, legacy lasts, and legacy is built by those who value the foundation as much as the finish line. Your private disciplines determine your public durability. What you do in silence becomes the scaffolding for your success. Every act of obedience, every quiet moment of faithfulness, every time you choose integrity over shortcuts, you're driving your roots deeper, and the deeper they go, the stronger you become. Not flashy, not loud, but unshakable, because when the winds come, and they will, it won't be your visibility that keeps you standing. It will be your foundation. Let results speak louder than your words. In a world full of noise, opinions, and constant declarations, it's easy to believe that saying the right things is the same as doing them. But talk is cheap. Words without action are empty, and intentions without execution are meaningless. There are people who speak well, who declare bold goals, who make powerful statements, but what truly carries weight is what they do when no one is listening. It's not about how loud your voice is. It's about how clear your fruit is. Results don't lie. They don't need explanation. They don't need marketing. They speak for themselves. When you are serious about your calling, you won't spend all your energy trying to convince people. You'll use that energy to build. The people who achieve the most often say the least in the beginning. They understand that talk doesn't build empires, discipline does. Silence doesn't mean passivity. Sometimes it's a sign of focus, of commitment, of someone who doesn't have time to argue because they're too busy becoming. You don't need to announce every step you take. You don't need to prove anything through your words. The results will be your evidence. The most powerful way to prove who you are is to become who you are. Let your work speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your excellence speak. That's what separates real impact from temporary noise. There's nothing wrong with vision casting or declaring goals, but declarations without demonstration are just decoration. Real authority comes from what you've built, not what you've boasted about. And when your life is aligned, when your actions reflect your values, your results will speak with more volume than any speech you could give. People may doubt your journey, question your motives, or criticize your pace, but none of that matters when the results are undeniable. Results silence opinions, results end debates, results don't need hype. They carry a quiet strength that can't be argued with. When you show up consistently, deliver faithfully, and stay grounded in your purpose, your fruit will do all the talking. You won't have to beg for opportunities. You won't have to chase validation. You won't have to prove your worth through performance. Your results will declare your value. There's something powerful about restraint, choosing not to explain yourself, not to defend yourself, not to overtalk your process. That kind of restraint is a sign of maturity. Immature builders boast too soon. They're more focused on being perceived a certain way than actually becoming who they were called to be. But the mature ones understand the long game. They know that real work takes time. They don't just want to be impressive. They want to be impactful. And they're willing to let the outcome prove the process. Letting results speak doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you don't let your words outrun your work. You stay aligned. You stay focused. You stay faithful. You understand that the loudest statement you can make is a life that bears fruit, a project finished, a business sustained, a character that holds up over time. You build something so real, so excellent, so rooted, that people can't ignore it. Even if they try, the results will keep showing up. Consistency will keep speaking. Faithfulness will keep speaking. Excellence will keep speaking. In a time where everyone is trying to be heard, the quiet achiever often stands out the most. Not because they said the most, but because they did the most with what they were given. When you commit to the work, the results become your voice. And that voice will carry further than any argument, post, or presentation.